Hey, it's him. I just recorded this video and the file was corrupted, so we're gonna do take 2. Queen of the Damned. We are on part 3 in the book. This is part 4 of my video series, so go check out the playlist if you want to catch up. Spoilers, because we are just summarizing the content of this book. We start with Lestat in the Arms of the Goddess is the name of the chapter. He and Akasha are on this kind of vampire honeymoon, which sounds like a Vampire Weekend cover band, but basically it starts with Lestat going, oh, I don't know how long. Akasha and I were just together drinking each other's blood and being cozy. But when he fully comes to, he realizes she has brought him to the ruins of his childhood home, the castle in France that he grew up in. And he is, of course, I don't know if you can say of course. He is actually kind of concerned. He's like, oh, what happened to my mom and Louis and Armand? Like, where are they all okay? So she says, well, drink from me some more and you'll see them. The mechanics of vampire abilities is very vague and mushy, okay? Like, we get some things that can happen sometimes and sometimes not. We get vague explanations about why a thing can or can't be done. But in this instance, he is able to drink from Akasha and see Louis and Gabrielle walking through a forest. Louis having trouble keeping up with Gabrielle. And Lestat throws a little shade on Louis by saying, like, oh, he looks like a gentleman down on his luck or something like that. I was like, that's kind of cruddy thing to say. There's also like Armand and Daniel and Maharet, and they're all kind of cutting through this forest. And in the meantime, Akasha has decided that Lestat needs vampire lessons. So she kind of transports herself to the end of a hallway and tells Lestat to come to her, and he's like, I can't. He starts to walk. She's like, no, like, come to me and like use the force, Luke. And he does. And then she flies up to a turret and she says, now fly. Now, in the 1994 film and in the TV series, we've established Lestat can already fly. He's already drunk from Akasha before, right? So it only makes sense that he has this ability and has figured it out. He's not like this stupid. So we've kind of retroactively fixed some of the stuff. Because in this, he kind of seems like an idiot. You're like, I thought you were smarter than that. So, he's like, I don't know how to do anything ever, or whatever. And she's like, I'm going to teach you. He learns to fly up to her. She's like, you're here to serve me now, and so on and so forth. Whatever. She also mentions, like, while she was in the shrine, her spirit would leave and go into other people and live sometimes for years in other people in the world or something. And I was like, so you're possessing people? You're astral projecting and possessing people? Like, what? Again, we don't get a lot of good explanations for what these vampires can and can't do based on their age or whether they've ever drunk from somebody powerful or were made by somebody powerful. It's all very, it's all in service of plot, I think, and drama. We switch to Marius. He's out of the ice. Pandora and Santino have gotten him out. He was there for 10 days. The shrine is smashed up because Akasha took off. So Marius, Pandora, and Santino fly. And Marius mentions being cold, and I was like, dude, you are a vampire. How are you cold? But, they fly to where Armand, Daniel, Maharet, and Gabrielle, Louis, and then Maharet is there, and Cayman's there, and Eric's there, who I'd forgotten even existed, and Jesse obviously is there, and all these vampires are there. All these. I think there's probably 12. But Marius meets Maharet. They have this kind of weird standoffish interaction. It's all from Marius's point of view. It's all very long-winded because Marius is Marius and he's everything's, all the details of what everybody's wearing and what their hair looks like and how they look in this light or that light. And it's a lot of pages to not actually tell a lot of story. Maharet does reunite with Armand, which again, I think is supposed to be a sweet moment. It feels kind of sterile. It's also very brief because they're supposed to be going into this room with this big table and the fireplace and the chairs and because they need to have a summit. They need to figure out what they're going to do about all these things. And Maharet even says, "Is this all that's left?" And Maharet says, "Yes, we're all that's left." And then she goes, "Well, the ones that count." It's like, what? Which in the next chapter we realize it might be true because there is a whole other vampire interaction with somebody who's not at the summit. It's interesting too because Daniel is described as having ashen hair and violet eyes, which again, obviously, this is the young version of Daniel as opposed to what we have in the TV series. So. Again, like when I'm reading the book, I'm still kind of picturing Christian Slater from the 94 movie. Gabrielle is really worried about Lestat. In fact, that's the only thing she cares about. She doesn't really care about any of these other vampires. She doesn't, not even Louis, which is kind of sad, honestly. But she's just like, I need to know that he's okay. Where is he? Can we get him? Like what? And, because she can't communicate with Lestat because he made her. They have this weird vampire VPN network of triangulating. If I can see him through a different vampire or if a mortal thinks about him, maybe I can, but there's maybe also a distance issue. They need to be within a certain range. I don't know. It's like some weird satellite network of vampires. Okay. And again, it's all very mushy because it's like Maharet says, well, we can't hear Akasha. And also Lestat naturally cloaks himself, so he's hard to find unless you're finding him through someone else, and the only person we know he's with is Akasha, and we don't even know where in the world they are at this point. So there's all these kind of vague reasons why we can't find him. They do finally refer to Akasha as Queen of the Damned, so roll credits, and then the vampires are kind of like, well, okay, well, where's your twin? They're asking Maharet, where's your twin sister? Because we've been having these dreams and, what's that about? And then she's like, well, from the dreams that we were put in the stone sarcophagi and sent in 2 different directions. And I never saw my sister again. I know she's still alive because we have that twin connection thing. And an archaeologist found evidence of her in Peru. But other than that, she's the one sending the dreams. And they're like, oh, okay. So she's like, gather round, children, and I'll tell you the story. And then we leave for Lestat and Akasha again. And this is just a peeve that I have. Because this chapter is called Lestat, the Queen of Heaven. Now, the previous was Lestat, in the arms of the goddess. And this is my editor nitpicking because I want parallelism, okay? And to say Lestat, the Queen of Heaven just makes it sound like Lestat is the Queen of Heaven. He's not. It's Akasha. But anyway, Akasha continues with the flying lessons. She has Lestat pick her up and fly her northeast, I guess, somewhere vaguely Asian. It's very Temple of Doom because they land in these mountains with this temple, with these columns and these frenzied worshippers because the vampire Azim has set up basically a cult for himself where he drinks the blood of his followers. And Akasha strides in there and Lestat follows her in and she kills Azim. Now, clearly Azim didn't get the memo to meet at the summit, or if he did, he was like, I'm good where I'm at. I don't know. He was one of the ones that didn't count. And then Akasha goes through and starts killing the male worshippers, and she tells Lestat, go, come on, help me kill all the men. And he doesn't want to, and then, she's like, use that invisible force within you. You don't even have to touch them. You can just kill them with a thought, and he starts going through and doing it, and he's actually really kind of enjoying it, because he kind of always had homicidal tendencies, apparently. He's like, oh, this was always in me, and I always kind of wanted to do this. And I'm like, I think we're supposed to think Lestat is more complicated than he really is. Again, we're hearing it all from Lestat's point of view. And when, it's telling, and it's very detailed showing, and at the same time, the connect is not there, like, for the emotional underpinning. Like, you don't feel what's happening, or at least I don't. I feel like probably when I was 13 or 14, I thought this was the best writing I'd ever read or something. But now, some of that is just changes in style over time. Like, what's common changes, and probably this was very common style of writing for the time. Also, I know that at one point, Anne's deal with Knopf was that they wouldn't edit her work anymore. And so we're starting to see some of the results of that. So they go through, they kill the men in the temple. Akasha tells the women to leave and take this story, tell the story of what happened here, like that the Queen of Heaven is here now. And then Lestat kind of conks out, wakes up. They're in a little village somewhere. He makes it clear that it could be anywhere. He's like, it could be Calcutta, it could be South America somewhere. He's like, who knows? There are thousands of towns like this all over the world. It's a poverty-stricken little village, and Akasha is just like, okay, we're gonna kill all the men again, because this is her big plan. She tells Lestat they're having a divine war, and they're gonna make the world better, apparently by going through and killing men. It's like feminist, but to an extreme. I have no idea. So the reason I wanted to make this video on just those 3 chapters is because the next chapter is Maharet starting to tell the story of her and her sister and everything that happened, and I feel like that should be its own video. But I will either be back with that, or I will be back with All the Sinners Bleed, whichever one comes first, because I am reading them, kind of going between the two. And yeah, until next time, take care.